Hello, Andy here, welcome back. So I've been putting off this video for a while because well, I haven't had my 3D printer up and running, but it's now working and I've got my filament out of storage, which has been in storage boxes for well over 2 years, and it's not printing very well. So that was expected, especially as the filaments I have, which is mainly ABS, I know it absorbs water. So when I've been printing it, the results have been pretty bad. I've also been printing in, I think it's ColourFab XT, and that's been printing better, although when the filament is extruding out of the nozzle, you do see blobs and a little bit of popping and hissing, which means the filament has absorbed water. So hence I knew I needed to dry the filament. Now we have a pretty new kitchen and I have a loving wife, and I knew that I was not going to be able to put my filament in the oven. So I searched YouTube for various videos, and people have been using these food dryers or dehydrators. So I thought, yep, that will do. We're in lockdown at the moment as it's 2020 and it's coming to the end of April. I didn't really want to get anything from Amazon, so we were allowed out. We're in Italy, although you need ID and paperwork to say where you're going. We had to go shopping, and we passed one of our local electrical stores, which is called Troni, and I managed to pick up this little unit, and I think I have to confirm 30 or 40 euros. Anyway, I haven't opened it yet, so let's open the box and see whether it's going to be suitable for putting spools of filament in to make it dry. So it's still got the seal on, so let's get a knife. Okay, it's made in Italy. Obviously we're living in Italy, so supporting the local economy rather than buying it off Amazon, where not really supporting the local economy, and you don't pay tax anywhere anyway, do you? So I don't think we're going to need the instructions, and we're certainly not going to need the warranty, because we're going to be making holes in this thing, so I can always read that later. So obviously it has a lid. Okay, that's to be expected. Now these are the things I'm interested in. So these are layers. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So the first layer is obviously going to have to remain because we're going to put our filament on there. So how do they interlock? So this centre section here, this is slightly raised, 10mm, so that may help. No, my spools have quite big holes in them, and this hole is not small enough to allow the spool to fit in, so that may have to be trimmed off if I need the extra height, because this spool is 10mm-ish off the bottom of this platter here. So let's stack all these up and see what height we actually have. So from top to bottom, and the bottom is there. So it's about 140 millimeters, or about 5.5 inches. So a spool is, or my spools are 75 millimeters or 3 inches. So I'm not going to get too. I might just get 2 spools stacked on top of one another. That's 6 1/4 inches. 2 spools are my spools anyway. 6 1/4 inches or 155 mil. So that's no problem. It's going to be tight, I think. The time. So my idea is we're going to have to chop these out somehow to allow the spools to go on. Now, obviously, could always. I'd have to turn the machine on to see whether this section gets hot in any way, because this first layer, there is an air gap between the bottom of this tray and that. So if I need extra height, I can always take this layer off and maybe somehow reuse this and make it perforated, but I don't know. So I need to start chopping these down to allow me to get the spools in. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to find something off camera, which may be a pair of side cutters, maybe a small hacksaw blade. And my idea is to cut around this section here. So I'm going to leave the outer perforation sections in. My idea for that is it might make the outside a bit stronger. So let me just go off now and find something that will cut these easily, which hopefully most of you hobbyists would have in your tool bag. So I've got a pair of side cutters here. Which go in the gaps. Now they're reasonably good. There's no nicks out the blades. So I'm going to start off on a. This is slightly thicker than the inner one, so I'm just going to try a thin one and see how well it snaps. Quite easily. Oh yeah, it's quite soft plastic, so this is cutting it really quite easily. Yeah, working well. I think this is going to be the best tool to use. So I'll speed up this video because no good you watching me do this. Ah, look at that, perfect. So that's come out really well. And the outside frame is still quite solid. I think even if you cut the remaining section out, it would probably be more flimsy. Yeah, I think I'll leave them in by choice. So, looking good, Houston. So I've got another 4 to do. So I'll do those off camera, and I'll come back once I've trimmed them all off. And welcome back. So rightly or wrongly, the first ones I snipped off right the way to the edge, and I thought, well, that's being stupid because I don't actually need the space. So then the upper ones, I've reduced the size of the circle just big enough for a spool to fit through, because then that way you get a little shelf, and if you've got any bags of silica gel, you could always put them on there to dry them out. I mean, we all have camera equipment and silica gel, scuba diving equipment, radio control stuff. We have a lot of silicone gel. So now let's see if it fits. So that's there. And the answer is not quite. So that is with snipping them all out and having the spools sitting on this thing. So what options have we got? Yes, so well, that's fitted now, so what's gone different? Why? Right, let's see what's going on. That now fits. So why is that then? Let's make sure these are all. Let's put the rings that I've cut with the other bits in first. That's correctly seated. Now that is a standard spool sitting on top of obviously where the warm air comes out and the fan. So that spool, just the spool here is resting on the two screws. So that's not ideal to make it stable, but obviously we could sort that out if it's a problem. That's not going to fall off, so that's on top of there. That's on. Let's just snip this bad boy off. Right. That's still not fitting, so that's 55. That's the same spool diameter, so what's different? Why did it fit? What am I missing? What am I missing? Maybe I didn't have the seats. They're all correctly connected. Yeah, definitely too small. So, no, it's not too small. That was user error. That takes two spools, but there is no room for anything else. So if when you're buying one of these and that lid, yeah, all those are sitting incorrectly, but the bottom of this is the top, so I'm holding the lid, the bottom of the recess of the handle actually is touching the top of the top spool. So if we needed extra height, because I'd have to draw you a little picture, you might not be able to see, the lid is flat here, it angles up, in, and then it tapers down for the handle. You can see my fingers are inside the plastic. So on this design, a spool sits inside this space. So I'll draw a cross section or something and put on the screen the shape of this lid in case you can't see it, because here is a taper. So the lid is here, then the lid goes up 10mm across, and then the handle must come down about 20. So if you're stuck for space, you could quite easily, depending on what tools you have, you could cut this handle off and 3D print your own handle and have the handle coming up rather than in, because it'll give you the 10mm. But I don't have to do that, because on my spools that fits perfectly. So I'll measure the inner case of this dryer with the model name, and I'd imagine they're all going to be pretty made by the same people. But as it's such a close fit, if you don't want to do the modification, so you could easily just cut this out, 3D print a handle, raised, and then you get the 10mm you're looking for. But for these spools, I say they're standard. I don't know what standard spool is. That's 80mm across, or 3 1/8 inch. $77mm and dead on 3 inches. So if I had 2 of the green spools, that's going to tangle if I'm not careful, then it probably wouldn't fit. So then I would have to do the handle mod and cut the handle out to give me 10mm. So that's good anyway. So whatever spools I get. Now this lid has 4 holes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's obviously to let the heated air come out to take the moisture away. So what else can I tell you about this thing? So on this particular model, you have an on-off switch and a temperature gauge even, which gives you far lower temperatures than a domestic oven can go down to. So for the sake of 30 or 40 euros, whatever I paid, it's not worth upsetting the wife, is it, to have it in the oven in the kitchen. So not sure where you can see that, but it's 245 watts. It's made by DeLonghi, and now DeLonghi make various products across Europe, air conditioners, heaters, etc. So hopefully it's quite well made. Looking in the base to the vent grills, I can't actually see anything, so I think whatever it is, this is the main thing. Obviously a controller. Anyway, let's plug the damn thing in and see what it does. Gonna have to go and find an extension cord, and I'll be back. So I'm back, got my extension cord, so let's flick the old power button on and see what it does. Okay, fans come on, and that's heated up already. That's warm. That's set on 50 degrees. I don't know if you'll be able to hear that. Let's turn it off. So, good. Smells a little. I mean, most new products, when you turn them on, smell a little bit. Obviously there's a motor in there. So that's not going to take long to get up to temperature, because as soon as I turn that on you can feel the warm air being blown out of there. So the top of that is cold and that is cold, so it's the warm air is being blown out of these slots here. So this top bit may warm up a little bit, but it's not going to affect the spool because one of the spools is sitting on top of that. So let's load this up. I'm going to put two of them on first. In actual fact, I'm going to put one of those in the middle, because I think I've made an error by cutting these out. So I'm going to put a fully cut one, then a partially cut one, then a fully cut one, and that will now prevent, doesn't really because of the wet of the spool, but it would stop the spools falling off maybe. No, not really. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. The spool, let's see if I can find one of these slots to sit where the screw holes are. Not really, but I don't think that's going to fall off, so going to put my other spool on. Two more of these. Make sure they're all connected. Okay, so that's assembled properly now. 50 degrees. I mean, ABS can easily take that. You could even whack that up hotter. I'd have to look at the glass temperature and see what the recommended drying temperature of various filaments are. So I'll whack something on the screen when I find that information. The only thing this doesn't have, and I didn't see any of, say, the cheap end food hydrators, they don't have a timer, but that would be easily sold with a Wi-Fi controlled switch or a plug-in socket with a timer. Once we know roughly how long they need to be put in to make a difference in, then you could set a timer and it would automatically turn off. I wouldn't leave this running overnight, although it's CE approved. It's like a 3D printer. I'm not keen on leaving my printer turned on overnight. I do have it controlled with Octopi. So what can I tell you about this thing? Made in China, unfortunately. Yeah, made in China, designed in Italy. So designed in Italy, here, you can see that, but made in China. So, anyway, it works. I'm glad that my 2 rolls of filament do fit in, so I can dry 2 filaments in easy. I was semi-expecting to have to 3D print a riser section, obviously in sections, because my printer bed is only 235 square, so you could print extra standoffs and make it work. But if you need the extra 10mm, you could cut this out safely with jigsaw, handheld hacksaw blade, and then 3D print a handle to fit on the opposite side. So I'm going to leave that in there for 2 hours, I guess. 2 hours at... So turning the knob, you do hear the thermostat kick in and out. Quite a broad range though, so it's about 10 degrees movement on that till it's clicking. So I'm going to put that on 60, leave it in there for a couple of hours, and then go and print something. Well, that's my first lockdown video for quite a while. I've got the other things that I do on my other side of the channel is the OLED PCB temperature and humidity controller. I need to upload a video for that. It now does the web page properly, and I'm just trying to get it implemented with MQTT. I've now got my Node Red, if people know what Node Red is. I've got that up and working. I've got my Home Assistant working. I've got my first Sonoff smart switch working with Tasmota flashed into it. So things are happening in the background. The wife's working at home at the moment, so I can't get in my office very easy to make videos, and that's where my PC is with multiple screens, so I use that setup when I'm doing the electronic videos at the moment, because it's easy to have different screens open, and that's the better computer which is running OSB, which I'm doing my screen captures on. Anyway, I think this is a success. You can feel warm air coming out there, so it is doing its stuff. You can hear the fan running if I just shut up for a second. Less noisy than my 3D printer, my Ultimaker 2. The hotend cooling fan, because it spins round so quickly, is more noisy. I think it's just a higher pitch. Anyway, if you've got any questions, or if you've got one of these and you have used it with success, pop a comment in the bottom. I'm always happy to answer all the comments, and I will let you know what happens after 2 hours, whether 2 hours is long enough. I mean, this filament has got to be easy 2 years. It's been in a storage box with silica gel, but that gel would have expired. So yeah, definitely needs drying. Anyway, that's Andy now signing out. Good afternoon.